Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, Senate gives Inspector General of Police 14-day ultimatum to arrest perpetrators of New Year killings in Benue State. Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, blames shortfall in labour market for recurring clashes between farmers and herdsmen, seeks creation of more private sector jobs. Lagos State safety officials seal gas stations close to residential areas 24 hours after deadly explosion in the Magodo area of the state. And U.S. grand jury summons former chief strategist to President Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, to testify before a grand jury on collusion between Trump campaign and Russia. And on business news tonight, Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, sees more rally in Nigeria's stock market in 2018.
And in sports news, WBA Super and IBF champion Anthony Joshua says no one can stop him from becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
And from Abuja, House of Representatives launches investigation into an alleged $44 million missing from the vaults of the National Intelligence Agency.
We begin tonight with the condemnation trailing the killings by herdsmen in Benue State. This time, members of the two chambers of the National Assembly are speaking out for the first time on the matter as they resume plenary for the first time this year. The lawmakers in the Senate have issued a 14-day ultimatum to the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Ibrahim Idris, to investigate and arrest those who carried out the attacks. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives is to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the killings in Benue and other states of the country and give a report in 4 weeks. Our correspondent Larry Lasisi reports.
It's been a sorrowful few weeks as Nigerians try to come to grips with the killing of over 73 people in Benue State by suspected headsmen.
Welcome you back to the plenary of the House.
It's a matter the Speaker of the House of Representatives dwells on as he welcomes lawmakers back to plenary in the new year.
The accentuation of violent crimes is a chronic symptom of defects in our security architecture, which we must fix. Therefore, call on Mr. President to apply maximum sanctions on public officers who are derelict in the performance of their constitutionally assigned responsibilities.
The matter is also considered as a motion which draws different emotions from lawmakers.
But for as long as a government, we cannot provide an enabling environment, you cannot wake up one fine morning, make a law, and ban open grazing when you have not provided an alternative. It's not going to be possible.
We are not saying we don't want you in Benue State. We are not saying don't come to Benue. We are saying come to Benue and take this land, pay for it. I have not seen a Yoruba man going to Kano to take land for cocoa free of charge. I have not seen. I have not seen a thief man going to Plateau or even Kwara to take land to farm his yams for free. These are businesses, for crying out loud.
Let's even talk about just the past administration. Where is the 100 billion naira that President Jonathan gave for the establishment of the grazing reserves to the governors? Have we seen any one reserve? Have we tested, anyone? Have we brought any of the governors to book?
We expect the President of Nigeria to come and intercede in this matter. The security agencies have failed. We were with him yesterday, Mr. Speaker. We were with the President, and our take-home was nothing.
The House resolves to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the matter and report back to the House in 4 weeks.
Distinguished colleagues,
Meanwhile, in the Senate President condemns the killings in his welcome address and calls on the ad hoc committee on security, which had investigated the matter, to present its report.
The violence and mayhem in Benue is a manifestation of a larger national security crisis that, if not attended to, could result in detracting the unity and cohesion of the nation by destroying its rural economy and the means of the people's livelihood. It is very clear from our interaction that some faceless people are sponsoring and harboring the well-trained foreign mercenary elements and using them to unleash violence and criminality in Nigeria's rural space.
A debate then follows.
In the report that was presented before us, federal government was mentioned about 7 times, and we are all part of the federal government. The security of this country is under the control, the directive of the commander-in-chief. Why are you shying away from calling on the president to wake up and stand up and protect this country?
Considering the recommendations of the committee, the Senate condemned the killings and has given the Inspector General of Police 14 days to investigate the matter and arrest those responsible.
You also in the resolution mandated that some of the discussions here we need to convey to Mr. President to tell him what we have discussed today and the seriousness at which we have taken the issues. It is a wake-up call for him, it's a wake-up call for us, a wake-up call for this government. We must frontally address this issue.
This is not the first time resolutions will be taken on this matter in the National Assembly. It remains to be seen if this time their words will bring action. Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the leadership of the Senate met with President Muhammadu Buhari at the Aso Rock Villa this evening. The President of the Senate, Dr. Bukola Saraki, led the delegation, and he said they were at the villa to brief the President on the Senate's decisions and resolutions regarding the Benue crisis.
Speaker, was it 2 nights ago, and today was our first day of the session, and if you followed, we debated the issue of the unfortunate incident in Benue for the whole day, from about close to almost about 4 hours, and some of the resolutions we took there was for me to personally come and brief the President on some of our resolutions, particularly the issue of security. So I was just here to brief him on the debate and some of the conclusions we reached.
How did you receive it, sir?
Very well. We hope that we'll begin to see results of some of the actions, bring normalcy back to Benue. Not only Benue, also other states too, that we were seeing a high incidence of this kind of violence and killings, that there's need for us to address some of these issues and restore confidence back to the people of our country.
They debated and considered the issues of security with the greatest passion and statesmanship. They divorced every question of sentiment, any bias, any political interest, party or otherwise, and they looked at Nigeria as one. And they also made sure that the passion, as it were doused and respected.
And back here in Lagos, the state government is investigating the cause of the explosion that hit a gas station in the Magodo area of Lagos. The Commissioner for Special Duties and Intergovernmental Relations, Seyi Oladejo, explains that the safety of the people is a priority and everything will be done to prevent a recurrence. More gas plants located in residential areas are also being shut down by the government, starting with Showers of Blessing gas plant in the Uluora area of Lagos State. Our correspondent Victoria Ido reports.
This is what is left of the popular gas station on Magodo Road in Lagos State. Badly burnt and destroyed generating sets, gas tankers and unusable gas cylinders. But it appears a few of these cylinders have survived the inferno, as they are still standing. The Lagos State team, led by the Commissioner for Special Duties and Intergovernment Relations, Seyi Oladejo, are on the scene to see firsthand the extent of the damage done. Salvaging the gas left in these tanks remain top priority, and this brief discussion focuses on how to get it out in a few hours. At the moment, this gas plant has been sealed and will remain so until investigations are concluded.
I don't want to be hasty about this. We're still investigating the real cause. And for us too, after more than the investigation, the government is interested in ensuring that we prevent a reoccurrence and that we also improve on our capacity to respond appropriately. But our men did a wonderful job putting this under control yesterday.
A few meters down the road at Olowora is another gas plant located in a heavily populated residential area. With the consequence of the explosion at the nearby gas plant so fresh in memory, families in the area cry out.
I'm a resident, I have a house there, but it's too close, to do the gas plant inside where the residents live. Very risky.
I expect that government should have a proper policy where they can have an issue, set out gas industrial area.
Amid the residents' loud objections, the Lagos State Safety Commission seals the place up. But rather than calm frayed nerves, the action further infuriates the already upset residents who raise questions about how the plant owners obtained the operating license.
When they see this place, within a week, they will open it again. So we don't really know what is happening.
That will not happen.
It's not a matter of forget. 3 different people have come to lock this place up. And at the end of the day, we will see that they open it again.
People from that side went through the back, collect money. This man said no. But he said he don't have power to tell them not to sell because of their department. But they said no to this type of thing.
It takes this firm reassurance by the DG Lagos State Safety Commission to provide some respite.
DPR has power to give them approval. But where is it located? In Lagos State land. So we have the power to say no.
Owning a gas plant could be a lucrative business. But the government agencies responsible for granting licenses and the plant owners should also remember it's a risky one. Therefore, they must make safety of lives and property a top priority. Victoria Idowu, reporting for Channels Television News.
Now, the recent explosion at a retail IGP plant in Lagos has again raised concerns over the safety of such installations and the rising number of such plants. In our next report, our energy correspondent Olu Phillips examines the activities around the siting of LPG plants.
The explosions rocked the city of Lagos in the early hours of Monday, 16th January. The incident, from preliminary reports, have been attributed to a compromised LPG container. Across major city centers, you will likely find an LPG or what is known as cooking gas refill and retail point. For the bigger entities, you will find a location doing both refill and retail. For the smaller dealers, they just retail already refilled bottles. This is the face of business which has risen to a level of proliferation as can be seen in most residential areas. Until recently, the retail and refill of cooking gas was an activity mainly carried out at major downstream petrol stations and mostly by the oil majors. But when policies began to shift in favor of cleaner energy as against fossil fuel, including kerosene, a new business was born. Sprawling retail outlets dealing in cooking gas has been on the rise. On the brink of this latest fire incident, the voice from onlookers and respondents doesn't seem to favor what they say is the siting of LPG refill plants in residential areas.
We don't want it.
But before that can become a valid position, is the question that must be asked: what is the requirement in setting up of a plant? How many of such plants or smaller retail centers are actually licensed? Who are the licensing agencies? Well, from our checks, the Department of Petroleum Resources is responsible for issuing operating licenses, while the state agencies, whether it be the Physical Planning or Safety Commission, issues license for the property location. Some experts have also argued that development had grown to meet some of these retail plants which were initially remotely located. The DPR guideline is a 6-session document with over 100 instructions covering emergency, operations, licensing, maintenance, plant access control, basic qualifications for personnel, truck safety, discharging of products, refill areas, penalty, and a lot more. Lagos State in this case has its guidelines for approval to happen. Question is, how many of these outlets have all the required documentations in place? What's the level of cooperation and synergy between supervising agencies? Because in the past, there's been cases where a property has a government approval but didn't receive the blessings of the DPR to operate a filling station. What's the response time of first responders to emergencies? Perhaps it is time to take a look at the entire LPG retail ecosystem. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.